Now that we've seen all of the controls that we have at our disposal when creating forms and reports, let's bring this full circle and piece a couple of them together to control the chart that we created in the last movie. That chart, if you remember, is saved under this form here called Orders by Month. Let's double-click on it to open it. Now the chart is pulling data that comes out of this query here called Order Dates. And right now we're showing a graph of all of our orders from January 2013 through the end of December 2013. Let's go ahead and open up this query here. I'll right-click on it and say Design View. In the last movie, we created this query criteria to filter out our order dates to a specific date range of just the dates that appeared in 2013. What I want to do is create a form that allows my end users to specify their own date range, so we're not stuck with just the one that I've chosen here. Let's go ahead and create that form to do that. I'm going to go ahead and close down both of these objects. And we'll start creating a new form in Design View. First, we need a place where the user can enter in the dates that they're interested in. We could use a text box and allow the end user to type in whatever dates they're interested in, but that's not going to provide them any feedback. For instance, it's not going to tell them what are valid dates to choose. It's not going to tell them where does the database start or where does it end. Instead, what I want to do is use a combo box so we can display all the valid dates and they can just pick them from the list. Let's go ahead and select the combo box and we'll add one here into our form. The combo box wizard starts up and I'm going to go ahead and choose this option here that says I want the combo box to get the values from another table or query. Now before I press next, I just want to say that the combo box wizard is not going to get the results that we need in this case. But I do want to go through the steps a little bit so I can show you where it's going to fail. Let's go ahead and press next. In this case, we're pulling out the order dates. So I'm going to go over to the orders table, select it, and press next. And then I'm going to grab the order dates field here and move it over to selected fields. Let's go ahead and press next. We don't need to affect the sorting, so I'll go ahead and press next. But now it's going to show me a listing of how all the order dates are going to appear in the drop-down list of the combo box. Now this is where the problem appears. You can see that we have several order dates that are duplicated. For instance, we had 2 orders that were placed on the 5th of December 2008, and then we had 3 orders that were placed on the 7th of December. I don't want to see all of these duplicated values inside of my combo box. So what I want to do is actually cancel out of the wizard and build the query manually so we can get our own list that displays each date only one time. Let's go ahead and press cancel. That leaves us with an unbound combo box here that we can define for ourselves. Let's go over here to the Data tab in the Property sheet. Here, we need to define our own row source. These are the values that are going to appear in the list. I'll go ahead and click here, and then I'll click on Build. That'll bring up a new Query Design Editing environment, and we can see that we're inside of Form 1 inside of the Query Builder, so it's being embedded directly in the form. Here, I'm going to choose to add the Orders table. I'll select it and press Add. Go ahead and close the Show Table window, and from the Orders table, I'm going to double-click on Order Date to add it to the query grid down below. Next, I'm going to go ahead and go over here to the top and turn on this Totals row here. That'll group all of the dates that are the same together, so that they only show up one time in the query results. Let's go ahead and press Run to see the result. And there we go. We can see each date is appearing only one time. One entry for the 5th of December, one entry for the 7th of December. Let's go ahead and close this down, and I'll go ahead and save the changes. And I can go ahead and view the results. I'll switch my view into Form View, and now I have my drop-down list that shows each date that is present in my orders table. Let's go ahead and go back into Design View. Now I want my end users to be able to specify both a starting date and an ending date for our graph. So I'm going to need 2 of these combo boxes. Rather than recreate another one, what I can do is just copy this one and paste a copy. So what I'm going to do is select the first one, press Ctrl-C on my keyboard, and Ctrl-V to paste a copy. Now I've got 2 copies of the same combo box. Let's go ahead and adjust their appearance a little bit. I'm going to select them both here, and I'm going to make them a little bit wider. Next, I'm going to change these labels over here. I'm going to double-click on this first one, and I'm going to call it Start Date. Then I'm going to double-click on the second one here, and I'm going to call this one End Date. Finally, I need to name my form, and then I need to name these objects within the form so that I can make reference to them back in the query. So let's go ahead and save our form here. I'll press the Save icon up here, and I'm going to call this form Graph Date Range. We'll go ahead and say OK. Next, let's name these 2 combo boxes. I'm going to select the first one, go over here to the Other tab, and for the name, its current name is Combo 0. Let's go ahead and highlight that, and I'm just going to call it Start Date, all one word. We'll go ahead and select Off to finalize that change, and then we'll name the second one. I'll click here. We'll highlight this where it says Name is Combo 2, and I'm going to call this End Date. All one word once again, and I'll press Enter to save that change. So now I can make reference to whatever the user selects in the Start Date field in the Graph Date Range form, or the End Date field in the Graph Date Range form. Let's go ahead and save this form one more time, and I'll switch over to the query to edit its criteria. I'll right-click on it and say Design View. Now I'm going to go down here to the criteria underneath Order Date. I'm going to select it here, then I'll right-click and I'll say Build. That'll open up the expression builder where we can type in the expression. Let me highlight everything that's in here and press Delete. Now I'm going to retype the expression, making reference to the combo boxes that we just created. So I'm going to type in the word between, but instead of specifying a hard-coded date, we're going to go ahead and select the combo box. So I'm going to go here into the Access database, into our forms, into Loaded Forms, and into the Graph Date Range form. From there, I'm going to double-click on the Start Date field here. That'll add the reference up here into the expression. Next, I'm going to type in the word and a space, and then I'm going to double-click on End Date here. Let's go ahead and say OK, and we'll go ahead and save and close our query. Press Close, and then Save Changes. Finally, back on our form, we need a button that's going to open up the graph. So let's go over to the Design tab. We'll grab our button from here, and I'll add one down here. We're going to go to Form Operations and choose to open a form. Press Next. The form I want to open is the one with our graph. That's the Orders by Month form. Let's go ahead and select it and press Next. Next, we get to say what our button is going to look like. Do I want a picture or text? I'm going to select text, and I'm going to say instead of Open Form, I'm going to say View Graph. Go ahead and say Next, and we'll press Finish. So now I've got a button that'll open up that graph. Let's go ahead and test everything out. I'll switch my view here to Form View. I can make a selection up here. So for instance, I'm going to scroll down and choose maybe 7/1/2009. And I'll click an end date for the ending date of the graph. And I'll scroll down again. And maybe I'll choose 8/31/2009. So we're just going to see a narrow range of 2 months. Let's go ahead and say View Graph and see what happens. So there's my graph that spans just 2 months. If I want to get a different graph, I can close this down, make a different date range selection. Maybe, for instance, I'm going to leave it at 7/1/2009, but I want to expand the end date. Let's go down to the end here and choose something in the year 2011. How about 5/31/2011? Go ahead and say View Graph. And now we see a longer date range that expands from July 2009 all the way to May 2011. So using a few simple objects, I was able to create a couple of selection combo boxes to choose options from. And when I press the button, I instantly get a chart that meets my specifications. I can change my selections as often as I want and get an endless number of charts that highlight exactly what I want to look at. Once you get comfortable with each of the control objects available to you within Access, it's going to be up to you to be creative and figure out effective ways to hook each of the pieces together to create your database application.